Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Saturday story stream. I am Patrick, also known as Fictive Fun, joined today once again by David and Michael. Um, David, why don't you say hi and tell us where we can find you on the internet?
Yeah, my name's David. You can find me on Twitter at DALAFREN. And if you like listening to me talk about Dungeon World, you can do that for hours and hours on the Discern Realities podcast.
Yes, Discern Realities. Definitely a very helpful podcast if you're looking to get into Dungeon World. They talk over so many things on that podcast, and like I think y'all even break down like individual moves quite often, which I like.
Yeah, especially if you're new to Dungeon World, we recently made a series called Dungeon World Basics. So it's further down in the stream on the podcast. But if you're new to it, it's a great tool if you want to jump in and see how we explain the basics of Dungeon World as if you're a new player. That's what that series is all about.
Absolutely. And if you were lucky enough to get in on the Codex Kickstarter for Gauntlet, the Discern Realities annual is going to be in that, which is freaking awesome. Sweet. Michael, say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Michael G. Barford. I'm also at Michael G. Barford on Twitter. I use he, him pronouns, and I like to play games. Here I am.
Yes, don't we all? Michael's awesome. I love having Michael
Oh,
as a player in games.
I love being here.
Michael, I need to get in more games that you're actually GMing.
Well, I'll need to actually start jamming some more again. Though. Come March, I'll have something for you.
If you
Sweet.
want to feel like Michael's just there in the background, you just have to play his wonderful game, Storm Riders, which I cannot give enough praise. I've got to play several sessions of it recently, and it's that feeling of watching 1980s Saturday morning cartoons and bringing all of your meta knowledge to it as like an older adult about all the censorship and toys and things like that. And it's great. And I feel like Michael was there with us in spirit, even though he was not with us at the table.
I did make a blood pact with a dark being to always be present whenever that game is being played. So I'm glad to hear that that's getting some mileage because it did cost me some time in purgatory. So thank you very much, David.
Now I'm terrified. If I ever run Storm Riders, I'm gonna have to make sure I say at the beginning, Michael, in case you're watching. In case I messed this up, I'm sorry. Sweet. Hi everybody. I'm Patrick, also known as Fictive Fun Online. Yeah, member of the Gauntlet. Play a lot of games. Run some games. Wish I could play like every day. My goal is to one day create a retirement home for gamers like us, where we could all be old and do nothing but play tabletop and story games all day long and sip on OJ or whatever we're drinking. Today we are playing Downfall by Caroline Hobbs. I've played this once. It's a very fun game. It's a game in which we build up a haven, a wonderful, enchanting, amazing place, possibly, and then we tear it down and watch it collapse before our eyes. Yeah, that is a great cover. I love it. Always got to have a floating town on a cover. Um, Sweet. So yeah, when before we get into it, what we're gonna do is create our community. And hey, Mikhail's here. Hey, Mikhail. Wish you could have played with us today. It's been awesome. Um, but yeah, so the first thing we're gonna do is define the flaw of our haven, our community. So if you go to the list tab on that sheet I shared with you, you'll see a list of flaws. We'll go around. Do any of those jump out at you as wanting to explore in this session? David?
I'm trying to think of one. I like a lot of these. I think I want to stay away from one that like might unintentionally or intentionally mirror the current political climate in the United States, if we can do that.
Okay. Yeah, that's tough because they all kind of fall into. I mean, they're kind of broad. So, but yeah, I can definitely.
I think we're hitting all those flaws.
Yeah, we're getting there. So, yeah, I mean, is there anyone in particular?
um, I feel like ambition or jealousy, like those are probably safer ones. maybe in like Vanity or Pride, like some of those. Any of those sound great?
Yeah, yeah. What do you think, Mike?
How about I'll narrow it down to ambition and vanity.
Ambition and vanity. Let's do yeah, if I had to choose out of those. Yeah, I like the idea of ambition, like a community that just possibly maybe spreads itself too thin. Um, you know, has great ideas, but maybe they're too far fetched in a way. Who knows? We'll play to find out. Sweet. So yeah, let me go back to this other sheet here. And for the flaw, we'll type in ambition. Let's make that a little bigger and center it. Cool. Our flaw is ambition. Now, for the next step, we need to create or choose the elements that make up our setting. So what we'll do here is on that sheet of list, you'll see a bunch of different elements. You can choose one of those, or if there's one you don't see there that you think will be cool, you could think of one. But what we'll do is we'll do it in the Zoom chat. When I count to 3, just type it in, but don't press enter in the Zoom chat. And then that way we're all selecting our elements at once. So it's a surprise to all of us what elements we each choose. So if you choose one, keep it a secret for a moment. And this kind of like defines the genre we're going to play into. I mean, this game fits in anything. We go fantasy, we go modern, we go futuristic, post-apocalyptic, cyberpunk, western. It could be anything. So when y'all are ready, let me know. Are y'all ready?
Ready when you are.
Okay. So on 3, 2, 1, just press enter in the Zoom chat. 3, 2, 1, enter. Great minds think alike, Michael. We both picked clouds. I'll switch mine. I'll go with
Oh, Michael already changed his.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
To it.
Gravity, clouds, and empire. Sweet. So we'll use those. I'll jump over to the other sheet here. Gravity, clouds, and empire. So let's talk about that. How do you see that fitting into our civilization? Do we live in the clouds, or do the clouds just play a big part? Obviously we're part of an empire, or we could even be struggling against an empire. Yeah, gravity. How does gravity come into it? Anybody have any thoughts that jump out of them they want to see?
I think that's part of our ambition, is to defy gravity and live among the clouds. And like, maybe that is like to escape an empire. I don't know, but like, that's pretty ambitious. When
Yeah,
you
that
think about like the concept of like an ever flying city or something like that.
I like that. Yeah. So like a peoples that want to live among the clouds, but yet gravity is the factor that keeps us here because we can't defy gravity yet.
Right. Or it's very, very difficult to continuously do that. I don't know.
I definitely like the idea of anti-gravity up in the clouds, but do we want to be anti-gravity, anti-empire, like we're trying to escape or arise out of the empire, or are we trying to make our own anti-gravity empire up here in the clouds?
Yeah. I like the idea that like maybe we're part of the empire, but we're like not rebellious. We just kind of want to escape.
Oh, we're just building our own little place up here in the clouds. And if you want to be a part of it, you got to get here first.
Yeah.
It's a huge barrier to entry.
So are you guys saying that like maybe we already have an empire or our own place in the clouds? Like we already have that anti-gravity mechanism?
So I'm almost thinking with what you're saying, David, that this is like a branch of the empire. This is like where the elites of the empire strive to be. Is that right?
Yeah, kind of the way it's forming, it kind of sounds almost like that film Elysium.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So just remember that like the ambition is our flaw, not necessarily the empire's flaw. Um if that helps factor in anything.
Hmm.
Unless we are the empire and our ambition is to go to the clouds cuz like I don't know, maybe there's something like possibly catastrophic happening or for any reason we want to bring our peoples up there.
I mean, it might just be like just ambition for ambition's sake. Like we should be living in the clouds because that's where that's where we deserve to live.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, maybe like everybody's just has their head in the clouds. You know, the saying.
So when you say our flaw, Pat, do you mean like our flaws in these three characters or our community,
Yeah, it's a societal flaw.
the society?
Yeah,
Okay.
so when we create traditions, we're going to talk about like how the flaw affects each of those traditions. Um, so it like invades, it permeates everything in our society.
Yeah, I think that the idea of this whole thing being the empire, like we want to make this empire in the clouds, kind of feels the cleanest to me. I'm struggling to like we're like keep the idea that we're part of the empire, but we're a different part. But what's the rest of the empire feel about it? I don't. That's a little bit of a struggle for me, but maybe I just need some clarification.
Yeah, I like thinking of that like our community is the empire. Um like I mean the way the setting is in this game, your community could be anything from a small town to a planet. Either way, it's going to come crashing down. So I like to imagine that our community is actually the empire. Um, and there might be other nations out there or whatever, but they're not. They don't have that flaw that we have. So we could find out by the end whether what we do destroys the whole world or just our empire.
So I guess I would ask, like, were we a land based empire before, and now we're wanting to change the nature of our empire, or is it more like David was thinking of like some of us want to? This is how some of us view the empire as sort of evolving or adapting.
Yeah, I kind of like the thought of like maybe the world is made up of a few empires, um, constantly warring with each other, and that we truly believe that if we can get to the clouds, um, like that gives us the upper hand over, the other empires that may be in this world.
So we're not there yet, but that's our ambition.
Right. Sweet. Yeah, let's
So
go with that.
is this sci-fi? Kind of is seeming like it might be more sci-fi.
Yeah, I want to say this is like sci-fi, but like in this alternate world, like obviously like nobody's been in the clouds. Or maybe this could be like super post-apocalyptic, like maybe there was evidence there was people in the clouds before and like previous civilizations used to take to the skies or whatever, but now we don't know how that was done.
They had giant iron birds that flew in the sky.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know how they did it, but there's things up there, and it's almost it's like great satellite platforms, but they're not like outside of the atmosphere; they're inside of the atmosphere.
Oh yeah, I like that. So like everybody down on the surface has no clue what's up there.
Yeah, they can see it, and they're like, somebody did it. You can tell, So we need to be the ones who do it again.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. I think we got a general idea of what our society is. So, empire in world where everything is grounded, things float in the sky, possibly built by ancient civilizations. All right, there we go. Now we need to think of a name. Like, what's our empire called? It's always the hardest part. Names.
Names.
This name, I'm happy to go with like something that's very like oblique in this sort of post-apocalyptic thing where people like just name themselves like we're the bullet farmers because we live at the bullet farm or we farm bullets, you know. Um, but I'm thinking like, would we have been named for our dream, or would we have had a name before and then like if we name ourselves like the Sky Empire, well, you know, we're not quite there there yet exactly, you know. So maybe this name is sort of like defining our roots in a way.
Hmm. Like maybe like our empire is like one of the more technologically advanced ones, but yet we're still not that advanced. At least not enough to fly. Um, so if we want to base something like along those lines,
Right. Maybe something to do with like how we try to like remember the past and stuff and try to regain that glory in a sense.
yeah, we could do something along those lines.
The post-life crisis empire, I don't know.
Let me see if I get some inspiration.
That's what I was just trying to do. It's like look up synonyms of words and things.
How about the kingdom of like the kingdom of something, the kingdom of thought, or something like that?
It'd be like something that like makes other people think that we think we're better than them, like post-human empire or something like that, or like the ancient Chinese empires and kingdoms were called. It was called the Middle Kingdom because it was supposed to be between heaven and earth. There was the Middle Kingdom.
Oh, okay. So we could be something like the futurist or something like that.
Maybe like the horizon could be involved somehow.
Yeah, I like that.
Like the Horizon Dynasty or Horizon Kingdom,
The Horizon Empire or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. Let's do that. Horizon Empire. All right. So for the next step, we are going to create our traditions. So the way traditions work in this game, if you go back to that list page, you'll see a list of traditions. Okay. Now we'll do this one by one. We'll each go around and choose one of these traditions, and then you're going to describe the tradition and how it reflects the flaw, our flaw of ambition. And then once we each do that, the person to our left, as I'm looking on the screen here, Michael, you'll be to my left, and then David, you'll be to Michael's left. The person to the left will choose a symbol, something that symbolizes that tradition. So, like, a flag is a symbol. The office of the president seal is a symbol, stuff like that. So, let's start with Michael this time. Michael, grab one of those traditions you wanna pick one.
This is really interesting. Ambition. I feel like grief.
Grief.
Interesting tradition for this. And the way that we traditionally express grief, I think that it's something that is meant to be like very much pushed away, ignored. I think grieving itself is taboo because we are meant to move on, to move ahead. There is a bright future awaiting for us, and we can't be held back by those who are past or our failures or things like that, because they will only hold us back. There's only the future and the present to be concerned with.
I love that. Yeah. Don't grieve. That's the past. Future's where it's at. Awesome. Yeah. So, Mike, if you could type that in that description, maybe just a sentence or two, describing that. I'll go next. I think I'm gonna go with. You know what? You took death. I'm gonna take birth. Yeah. So I imagine like the birth of a new child is like a time of joy because of the possibilities it brings. What can this child do for our society in the future? Like, I think we like praise the birth of every child like they're gonna be, you know, the like almost like the chosen one. Like if you could think of like the chosen child, but yet like every child, uh, the society has the same like fanfare for. So like childbirth is like super important. Um, and there's always like you know dreaming and festivities along like what might this child do when they get of age. Awesome. Yeah, let me type that in. David, you go ahead and pick yours.
Yeah. I'm gonna take architecture, and I think that we believe that if that to reach our ambition of being in the clouds, that we have to build all of our buildings even lighter, and that it would be possible one day to build the buildings so light that they would float.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead and type that in. I like that. Like it's just not us that has to go up there. It's everything. We have to take everything with us.
Yeah.
I love it.
Starting to get some real Icarus and Hindenburg vibes going on here.
So what we'll do is so we'll pass our card. Well, you're supposed to do this on the index card. So we'll pass our cards to the left. So David, you will come up with what symbolizes grief. A symbol for grief. Mike, you'll come up with the symbol for birth, and I will be doing architecture. I think architecture is easy. I'm going to use a feather. That's just too easy. Something that floats on the wind.
I think maybe for birth that if you are a biological parent, then you are awarded with like a tattoo. And I think it looks like a little like very simple like sun coming up over a horizon, kind of like Lion King Simba style, you know.
I like that. So you get the tattoo when you become pregnant?
I think when you become a parent, yeah.
Okay, so after birth. Like
Right.
after the okay. Sweet.
I'm struggling to come up with a symbol of something that we ignore.
Maybe like a funereal rite of some kind. That would be very bleak.
Yeah, symbol of moving forward.
Or it could be reflected like in our like herald or flag, just kind of the way that we're always moving forward or something.
I think the symbol of our like ignoring grief and all that stands with it is like whatever we do with trash, that's what we do with the bodies too.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I mean, what do we do with that? Do we burn it? Do we recycle it? Do we bury it? What do we do with trash?
um
Burn it all.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like perhaps we just burn everything.
So yeah, I think it's just this black smoke over the city is the symbol for grief.
Okay. Awesome. So we'll go through and we'll do that over again. Um this time David, you get to pick your tradition first. So any one of those that jumps out at you.
Okay, I'm gonna do religion.
Okay.
And I think that religion for us is like self worship and worship of our society. Like the like the gods on Olympus, you know, we we enjoy ourselves and appreciate ourselves.
So we're like the ultimate hedonist.
Yeah.
Sweet. Um Michael, go ahead and pick the next one.
Well, every good empire needs a military. Um, So I think for the Horizon Empire, what that would look like, um, maybe in terms of the way it's structured, ambition. I think that a lot of your standing in society probably has to do with your military service. That in order to distinguish yourself in the society, you have to distinguish yourself um, in the military in a way. I'm assuming it's like a probably like a forced service thing here in this post-apocalypse, but um, yeah,
So yeah, your standing in society is based on the ambition you had while you were serving in the military.
right. It's sort of the rank or um, at least the recognition of your performance in battle.
Okay. David, I got a question about yours. How do you see ambition fitting into uh religion? I mean, do you see that fitting into like the self worship?
Yeah, I think it's like I think it's still there's still a religious aspect of like we need to like improve ourselves, but like we are the ultimate goal of this. Like we worship for our own edification and our own enlightenment and our own like um empowerment and elevation.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Um, I think I'm gonna go with. Hmm. Somebody to pick from. I think I'm gonna go with education. So what I'm imagining is like you're when the way that you're viewed isn't based on like your grades, more so than it's just based on how much you can achieve while you're in school. Did you read the most books? Did you do the most projects? Did you play the most sports? That's what determines like your coolness and how successful you're gonna be in life afterwards. Is like it's all about quality or quantity over quality. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that. Quantity of achievements.
So, like, if you're really good at trivia, you'd be considered very intelligent.
Yeah, probably. Um, like why would you spend the time reading one literary masterpiece when you can, you know, read 100 Hardy Boys or something like that? Yeah, it's basically over like how hard you work, like how constant you are working.
Interesting.
All right. So for the symbols, let's see, they're gonna move to the right. So Michael, you're gonna have religion. Um, David, you're gonna have education, and I'm gonna have military.
So, I think the symbol for religion, I think everyone has their own personal mirror, and that's sort of their like religious holy symbol, so to speak. And I think mirrors are probably like hard to come by in this future. So, like, a very like pious person might have like actually recovered like a glass mirror, but lots of people just have like a piece of polished metal or something to reflect upon. You know.
Awesome. I like that. Personal mirror. David, you got something for education?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of like it's almost like a CV, but um, whenever you do a thing, it doesn't matter what it is or how good you did at it, you write like a single page and keep it in your book, your book of accomplishments. So you can quickly tell the quality of candidates just by putting their books next to one another and see who's got the biggest book.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, I want this job. Hold on, let me put your book on the scale.
Yeah.
I need to see how much it weighs. Awesome. For military. Yeah. Zweihander wins. Status in society parallels your accomplishment in combat. Yeah, I like the idea of the Horizon coming into this. So like maybe it's like cross swords like over a sun, to symbolize like your status in the military. Awesome. So we have our traditions. And now we get to move on to making the characters. So let me look in the book real quick. Also, it says this is your last chance to change the name of your empire, but I think since we tied into the Horizon, I don't think there's a chance to change it. All right, so character creation. The hero. We do the hero first. The main character of our game is called the hero. The hero recognizes the Haven's coming doom and tries to prevent it. They are our only hope, and yet they will fail. To create the hero, discuss each of the following questions and write your answers on the hero character sheet. It says to do this as a group, but I kind of like to split it up since we got 3 players and there's 3 questions. So yeah, let's start with David. Choose a tradition, choose a tradition and give the hero a position or role in the Haven that relates to it. So this will be their occupation.
Okay. I think our hero is a builder or architect. Yeah. Somebody who designs and knows how building things works.
Cool. Designs and engineers.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Michael. Choose a tradition that the hero disagrees with and explain why they oppose it. This can be the same tradition from their occupation or a different one.
And this is still for the hero.
This is still for the hero, yeah.
Ooh, I think grief.
Grief. And why?
Mostly for story game sadness reasons, but I like to think that they've that this person, since they're the hero, is maybe, you know, a little bit less self-absorbed than some of these other people, and is like actually reflecting on their experiences that they've had with some people who've died, and they're like trying to learn from other people or some craziness like that.
Oh, so grief that the past shouldn't be forgotten, but
Right.
is a valuable resource instead.
Yeah. Ooh. Very, very succinct. I like that. Yeah.
I wonder if these people even like acknowledge the concept that like all of us die. Is that just like denial? Like you can overcome it.
They're stuck at stage 1 forever, man.
Yeah, I think that's probably why they're so hedonistic, 'Cause it's like, why don't worry about dying, when you're dying it's over. Worried about, who comes next, who comes after you. Make them the future. Sweet. So I get the hardest part and come up with a name and what they look like. So I will go to fantasy name generators and do that. Let's
All the names should have something to do with like, I don't know. I feel like people would name their children like either flying things or like ambitious things or like,
I like that. I like that idea. I don't want to name them Skywalker. That's pretty ambitious.
they name themselves after like clouds and things like that.
Yeah. I think our character's name is gonna be Sunseeker. Sunseeker, yeah. And for like a description, I imagine like even though like she recognizes the flaw of ambition, she recognizes it in herself as well. Like, that's why she is one of the top architects, building engineers in the Empire. Was because of all the ambition she put through in her life, in the military, in school. Her book of accomplishments is probably outrageous. Yeah, but I think that really kind of eats at her. Yeah. So like as far as like physical description, I say she's an average woman. Shoulder length brown hair. Don't want to get too into it. I don't know what the fashions they're wearing here. Nobody chose fashion for a tradition. Sweet. So the agendas. When you are playing the hero, your agenda is to fix the issues plaguing our society. It's to fight in earnest against the flaw, and to try to save the haven. That are your goals whenever you're playing the hero. The hero wants to save the haven. Fight in earnest despite your inevitable failure. So don't metagame knowing you're going to fail anyways. Just give up. Alright, so now we will do the Fallen. The Fallen actively promotes the flaw's growth within the haven. There are many in the haven who support the flaw, and the Fallen is just one of them. They are the antagonist who creates challenges for the hero throughout play. So, Michael, we'll start with you this time. What is the connection between the Fallen and the hero? Choose one and describe it. Are they family, friend, guardian, leader, or lover?
Ooh.
You notice they don't give you an antagonistic relationship.
I do notice that. I was thinking maybe leader.
Okay.
Maybe like a commanding officer.
All right. Or a former commanding officer? I mean, like, we're not imagining the hero was still in the military.
Right. They're an architect now.
Mm.
But I think that those relationships are probably still important even after you move to the private sector, so to speak.
So, former commander?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, perhaps maybe this was somebody that had pushed Sunseeker in the past. And maybe the reason that she's in such a preferential place in society. All right. So the next one is occupation. Choose a tradition and give the pillar a position or role in Haven that relates to it. So obviously, occupation. I could go with military, since that's one of the traditions. Yeah, I think better off. Like, I'm gonna go with grief on this one. Um, I think this former military commander is now like one of the department heads that in death and sanitation, since it's like one department in our society. Um, so yeah, let's go with head of death and sanitation, and that is the grief tradition. All right. David, you get the hard part. You get to choose the identity. Describe the fallen. What does the fallen look like? What is their name?
I think his name is Stratos.
Stratos.
Yeah. And because of his former work in the military and his current work in potentially still a heavy lifting occupation, I think this is a large, well-muscled person who is not that old. I think it's still, you'd still consider them a youth. It's just, you know, when you're good in the military, you're good in the military, and when you want to be done with the military and be head of the death and sanitation because you're good in the military, we'll let you do that.
Awesome. Do you see this as like a harsh person having a harsh personality?
Not necessarily. I think it's just ambition rules them,
Okay.
rules him for everything. So
I like it.
he would encourage you to better yourself and maybe reprimand you if you're not, but he's not in the military anymore.
Awesome. I like that. So just remember that, like, the fallen isn't like an antagonist towards the hero usually. You know, that's why they don't give you those antagonistic relationships. Like, the hero usually views the fallen as a friend. Yeah, so the agenda for the fallen: challenge the hero, advocate the flaw, and hand out consequence. So you always, like, you know, discuss with the hero like why, you know, why the flaw is a good thing. And when you frame scenes, you'll be challenging the hero in their thoughts. Handing out consequences, that's interesting because that gets into playing the scenes. So when you are the fallen character, whenever the hero takes action, now this is a narrative-based game, so when you have narrative control over the hero, you can take sweeping action over things. If the hero says, you know, I start a rebellion and, you know, kill the emperor, yeah, that's fine. You do that. But however, it's the fallen's opportunity and job to give a consequence of their actions. So the fallen will always give consequences for the actions and choices of the hero. So the hero will try to fix the world, and, you know, generally speaking, the hero will do things to fix the world and change things, and the hero gets to do that, gets to make that decision to fix it. But then the fallen comes in and be like, "Yep, but there's a consequence." So when we are role playing scenes, if you are playing the fallen, anytime the hero does something, you can be like, "There's a consequence." That's the fun part of playing the fallen. Awesome. Let's move on to the pillar. The pillar is a normal person in Haven. content to live in the society they are part of. There are many within the Haven who are complacent, and the Pillar is just one of them. They push the hero towards accepting the status quo. However, the pillar is not necessarily opposed to the hero. There's someone the hero can talk to about Haven. So I will start this one. What connection is between the pillar and the hero? Choose one and describe it. And it's the same choices as the last time. Family, friend, guardian, leader, lover. I think we're gonna go with lover here. And it is their spouse. So, oops. Yeah, I think the pillar and the hero have been happily married for a while now. And like this is, seems like it's going to be a long-lasting marriage. So, let's move to David. David, choose a tradition and give the pillar a position or role in the Haven that relates to it.
Okay. And the pillar like ignores the flaw or like is not down with the flaw, right?
Yeah, they don't usually they don't necessarily support it, but yet they somewhat apologize for it in a way. They just don't want change. They resist change because they're happy with the status quo.
Okay. I think they are involved in education as like as an educator, like
Anything
not sure
specific
what
they teach?
educator. Well, I'm not sure what an educator would look like in this. Like, do you have even studies? Because that would like presume you intend to dive in deeper and have a greater level of quality. So you'd probably be limited. Like if you were just a teacher of a subject, that's probably the bottom of the totem pole. As opposed,
Yeah, like I think maybe the educators here are all like super generalist. Like you have one
the
teacher
best
for
ones are.
everything.
Yeah, the best ones are. The worst ones aren't. Like, yeah, this is a university um, could teach you a multitude of subjects. You know,
So,
and
I mean, I would imagine the spouse of the most successful architect would probably be another successful person.
right. So this is a this is a general studies completionist.
Nice. General studies completionist. I love it.
You have to have a like a 25-pound book to complete all of the general studies.
It starts off the day with a motivational speech. Education. All right. Mike, you get to come up with a description and a name.
Let's name him Nimbus.
Nimbus. I like it.
And I think that this is a person who sort of strongly represents the head in the clouds archetype. Someone who's often lost in thought and asking questions, but not usually having the answers to them. Maybe that's like part of how they operate as general studies is like just asking the students like, how do you think that works? And then let them go off and and write a paper about it.
It's like the Socratic method if there were no answers.
Yeah.
I love it. Sweet. Awesome. Yeah, so we are done with our setting creation. We have created our haven, the Horizon Empire. We've created our traditions and our hero, our fallen, and our pillar. So our next step will be moving on into the actual roleplay scenes. But I think we should take about a 5 minute break before we jump into role playing. Give us some time to stretch our legs and all that. So let's come back at we'll say 5 after the hour. All right, folks, we are back and ready to get into the roleplay story gaming shenanigans. Um, so what we'll do is we'll play a series of rounds. We'll play 3 rounds, and during each round, each of us will have a chance to play as the hero. Once we have played 3 rounds, we will narrate the destruction of Haven. So each round has 5 steps. First step is the pillar player determines what tradition the scenes will be about, and we'll talk about the corruption and the flaw. Step 2 will be the hero frames a scene, and then we'll play a scene out. Step 3 is the fallen will frame a scene. We'll play that scene out. Step 4 is reflection, where the hero character gets to talk about how their hero is feeling after those scenes. And then step 5 is we'll rotate characters, and we'll do it all over again. So, does anybody want to play the hero first? Anybody want to?
See Michael's hand. Saw it.
I don't know yet.
That's a volunteer in my class.
Okay, we have a volunteer.
All right, here we go.
Michael, you will be playing the hero.
Okay.
That means that David, you will be the fallen, and I will be the pillar. So as the pillar, I get to choose which tradition these first 2 scenes are going to be about. Let's go with birth, because we don't have much on birth with our character setup. So let's go with birth. That's the tradition these 2 scenes are going to be about. So, Michael, you get to frame the first scene. The only thing that is required to be in every scene is the hero. So when you frame a scene, you can say that Stratos and Nimbus are in there, or you can say there's other characters, and you get to choose who plays those other characters. But we will be using the fallen or the pillar archetype when we're playing those characters. So, Michael, you have to pick where the hero is at, who is with the hero, and what's the situation. Now, when we're role-playing and you're narrating, you're going to narrate the thoughts of your character. When you're the hero, you can narrate your actions and its effects on other characters. So, in essence, you can kill other characters as a hero, but the hero cannot die ever, at least not before we hit the destruction scenes. So, do you have an idea for a scene?
Let's have this be the birth ceremony celebration of Sunseeker and Nimbus's child.
Awesome. So I'm assuming Nimbus is there.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay.
He can be a little bit flighty, but for his own child's ceremony, I bet he'll be in attendance.
All right. Is that the only 2 characters you would like in the scene, or would you like a third character?
I think it's up to our non-pillar. I'm not sure who's taking that turn today, but if you want to be the,
I'm the fallen.
do you want to be the fallen or do you want to be an NPC?
I don't care. Your call.
Let's get some fallen in there. You're here to celebrate with your ex. I forget the term for a military person who works underneath you. Subordinate?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we'll roleplay, and anybody can end the scene at any time. Just say scene. Remember, we do have the X card in play, so if anything comes up during play, you can say X card. You can type in the chat, and we'll discuss it, what it is, and we'll move past it. We'll take that out of the game. Awesome. Yeah. So, is this party like at our house, Michael, or is it like in a community place?
Yeah, I think it's almost like a parade down the streets of our like neighborhood or city.
Awesome. Yeah. I think you see Nimbus, and Nimbus is like, he's like feverishly writing in a notebook. This is crazy. I mean, the amount of people here, I'd never expected our festival would be so welcoming and to have the whole community here.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, it's all that you deserve.
It's just
Perhaps even not quite enough.
oh,
What say you, Sunseeker?
I'm thrilled to see everyone here, and I see such a bright future for our child.
Indeed. And I think the parade is like taking a path past a building, and I like point it out. I'm like, see there, your accomplishments surround you.
yeah, this is more than I could ever have dreamed of. I mean, can you imagine our child bringing us up there?
Nimbus, you need to set your sights higher, I think.
But up there, we've never been up there.
Not
The
yet.
things that the ancient peoples have built.
Are you suggesting, Stratos, that we shouldn't wait for our children to be the ones to carry us to the stars, but we should bring them there ourselves?
Absolutely.
Sunseeker, if anyone could, I think you could.
I'm torn. It just seems a shame that that Cirrus won't be joining us. When we get there.
Who?
Well, don't be so coy. I know that you are indeed the head of sanitation now, but Cirrus was a good soldier.
Cirrus precedes us, and I point up to the black smoke billowing into the sky.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good line. How extended are these scenes meant to be?
Just whenever somebody feels like the scene should end, just say scene and the scene will end. Anybody
Yeah.
can end them.
I almost just think that that's like such a perfect line that everyone just like looking up into the smoke and the rising up to the sky is kind of a good. I like the dramatic irony there.
Love it. Awesome. So who exactly was Cirrus? Are you thinking?
So I think this has to do with our grief. I'm imagining it was another like soldier in our battalion kind of thing that passed away in combat back when we were still serving, or maybe he continued to serve in the military after we went to do other enterprises.
Awesome. Cool. Sweet. So the next step is for the fallen. David, you get to frame a scene. Remember, it still has to do with birth.
Okay. I think that as a part of all of this, someone important has to name the child.
Okay. So you need to describe where the hero is at, who's with the hero, and the situation.
So Sunseeker is with the baby, and she has brought the baby to the whatever the head of government is around here, and it is like that person's. It's their position to name the children. Like that's their whole job. Just name the children.
So is it just Sunseeker and the government official?
Yeah, and I think the government official questions you on your ambitions for the baby, and based on that will assign a name. And there can be I think there's some small politics about it. or at least there's some superstition about it. So so I think it's just those two characters, Sunseeker and the Namer.
All right. Do you want the Fallen to play the Namer, or do you want the Pillar to play the Namer?
You can play the Namer.
Okay.
I think maybe like this this special like government building is like an old like telescope, like with the big round dome and everything.
I love it.
Sort of ruined, but still like refurbished or whatever, right? And it's probably like up on a hill, and like we see Sunseeker like embrace uh Nimbus before like heading on, and she's just sort of like this lone figure walking up the hill towards this big structure. And the doors are like kind of large and like swing open, and inside like there's all these like murals painted on the walls of like the sun rising and like constellations in the sky and things like that.
Yeah, I like to
Yeah.
imagine that like this is like a huge room. I mean, it's like a giant room, but there's like one desk, like right in the
Yeah.
middle.
I like the idea that like the telescope is dismantled in here and nobody knows what it's for. But what we do know is it's got the biggest mirror of anything. So they have the mirror like behind that desk.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, so Sunseeker sees her own reflection as she's approaching the desk.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it so clearly before. But at the same time, like I think that the clarity is very strong. You know, like this is very clean glass, and they've had some treatment applied to the back, but it's also like a lens, so it's like somewhat distorted. So it's like looking at like a fishbowl or like carnival mirror in a way.
Oh, I love it.
So
Yeah,
it's a
so
little odd.
the Namer looks up at you. Sunseeker, right on time. So,
I've brought the child.
yes, why don't you take the child over to the mirror?
Certainly. And I think like for some reason it feels like looking up at this reflection, like the way that we're warped, it feels like this big responsibility like glaring down at me almost.
And you can see the reflection of the horizon mural uh, in the mirror. Now tell me, Sunseeker, what is it do you see? What do you see in the future of your child?
Well, the first thing I see is myself. And I am the foundation for this child. And all of their future growth will be dependent upon my success in my endeavors.
Yes, but what do you see after you have passed on? What do you see for your child then?
I think that's like a very in this society like an extremely like cutthroat kind of question, like, oh right, death. um yeah, I feel like the blood like drain out of my body. I feel very cold. um I hope that they'll remember us while they're up there in the clouds.
Nonsense. Nonsense! There'll be no remembering of anything in the clouds. It'll be a grand existence. Why would you want to think about the past when you're in a present like that?
And I think I'm trying to like remember my own parents, and you know the work that they did to put me through general education and things like that. I I I don't know.
You don't know. Where is your vision, Sunseeker? How did you ever reach the ranks of the military and the ranks of architects that you have achieved without knowing? You must know what is in store for your child. It is the destiny of our people.
Well, if there's a new destiny for my child, maybe it's to change the way that the horizon looks, to see it from a new perspective. I think I even like turn around and face you sort of defiantly, right?
Right. So be
I
it.
hope, I hope up in the clouds that they will look back on us and see what we did right and also what we did wrong and learn from our mistakes.
The namer like looks at you sternly. I will not have that talk in this office. Therefore, thou child shall be named Omen. Now leave.
Nice. Call scene there.
Nice.
So Fallen, was there any consequences to any of the actions that the hero may have partaken in?
I think that the consequence has already been kind of given out. The child's name is Omen, but the like fallout of that is like you have to go outside and like scream it to everyone. And normally there's like lots of cheering and stuff, and there was like a real like real slow build up to getting any kind of cheer for Omen.
You Omen. Did they say Omen? Awesome. So the last part of the round before we switch characters is reflection. So Michael, tell us how Sunseeker is feeling after these two scenes.
She's feeling very untethered, in a way that's no longer exciting but terrifying.
And how does she feel about the state of the Horizon Empire?
Hopeful. If the new generation can fix what's broken.
Awesome. Sweet. It's a nice, slow, creeping build-up here. Our hero is still hopeful for the future. All right, so now we'll rotate characters, and then we'll do it all over again. So that means I'll be the hero, Michael, you will be the fallen, and David, you will be the pillar. So, David, as the pillar, you get to choose what tradition comes into play these next two scenes.
Cool. Let's talk architecture.
Okay, so I will frame a scene. Yeah, let's say, Sunseeker and Stratos are there. And, perhaps there is a subordinate, a student that is wanting to learn under, Sunseeker that is also there. Don't have a name right now, just student. So of course the Fallen's going to play Stratos, and the pillar, David, you could play the student. Yeah. So the situation is we are on the site of a brand new building project, and this is like a super ambitious building project. Like this is perhaps a building like meant to hold like this whole city's worth of people in it for like, community meetings, like speeches and stuff. So like a massive like stadium type thing that's like domed and all that. But we haven't even broke ground on it yet. It's like, we're just on the site where they're gonna build it, or are planning to build it. Stratos, I don't know this. I don't even know if this is feasible to build. Why?
You don't know? You, Starseeker. I mean, I can see it myself here, clear as day.
Right, I get the vision. But but why? Why do we have to have the whole city in one place at the same time? That's
Why?
dangerous and reckless.
Reckless.
What if our enemies hit the stadium when the whole city is there? One strike and we're all gone.
I'd love to see them try. How glorious would that be to join all of your brothers and sisters in arms all at once? Oh, that's a grand idea, Starseeker. Grand idea.
I mean, I think it's just it's bad planning. I understand the grandioseness of it, but the practicality just doesn't make sense to me.
We do it to prove to ourselves that we can. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I think Cumulus pops in. This is a student. Cumulus is like, yeah, I mean, I know I'm supposed to be the one learning here and everything, but I've got a great idea for we could build this thing and have all of the really big support pieces look incredibly strong, but be hollow on the inside. And maybe if we do it just right, like we could lift everyone up all at once.
See, Sunseeker, remember when you used to speak like that? That's the Sunseeker I remember, the one who rose the ranks of to head architect. Have you lost your vision? Have you lost
No.
that sense of competition, maybe?
You know, Stratos, you're right. I should just put my head down and get it done, right? The way we've always done. Get the job done. Move on to the next.
Now, that's what I like to hear. You do well to listen, young Cumulus. This is the mind of a great architect.
I will do it, but I will keep my head up.
Okay, so I'm going to end the scene there, but I'm going to say what exactly Sunseeker does. Sunseeker proceeds to finish out the plans for all this and start construction on it, but it is not like this lightweight structure that's supposed to be done. Like, it's like almost like an armored structure. It's super heavy, it's super sturdy, super safe for people to be in.
So, did she do that intentionally?
Yes, yeah, she does that intentionally. So I'm assuming the Fallen has a consequence of that.
Yeah. I think that she might lose her position in her occupation, and that young Cumulus may be sort of, rising up the ranks with his ideas about hollow structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like imagining like there's like all these like massive columns, and they're like solid like concrete, but they still had that feather symbol on them. Even though like she didn't follow the rules. Sweet.
Yeah, it probably was given some like really depressing name like Anchor or something like that too, or like Anchorage Point or something like that.
Awesome. Sweet. So as the Fallen, you get to frame the next scene.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Sunseeker and Nimbus kind of talking about like um their place in society now, kind of just considering these changes in their ranks and whatnot, and what that means for Omen.
I think Nimbus is like playing with Omen, like helping Omen start to walk by letting Omen hold on to his fingers. You can kind of toddle a little bit.
Yeah, and then you hear in the background like Nimbus. It's like obviously Sunseeker has been like trying to get your attention for a while, and like finally you can hear her.
Oh, what? Oh, sorry. I'm just trying to help little Omi get his feet under him. What's going on?
Why you call him Omi?
I mean, it makes people more comfortable than when I say his full name.
What do you think about my idea of changing his name?
I don't think it's a bad idea.
But I
It's
mean,
new. It hasn't been tried before.
yeah, I mean, we
Um,
don't have to do it publicly, but I mean, I don't like that name.
I think a lot of people don't, but no one's ever changed a namer's name before. So I don't know. That might be a good idea. Maybe that'll show people that you're more forward thinking than they thought.
Yeah, but I'm worried, I mean, people know that I've, dropped down the ranks of architects, so like
Yeah.
do you think you can announce the name change?
I mean, I can, but like, what did you have in mind? Like going back to Namer's dome and like shouting it from there?
Oh, I mean, maybe we can just like, I don't know. Do we need to announce it like that? Can we just like spread it as a rumor?
We could, but it's whatever
Maybe
you want.
maybe you could get all the teachers calling him by the new name, and then the kids will start. Because it really doesn't matter if we call him by a certain name, but like when he gets older, it'll matter that like all his peers call him by that name.
Yeah. I mean, nicknames are not unheard of. Like, I think I read something about that once. Look
Yeah.
at him! Look at him go! He's got it now, and I'm like helping him toddle a bit, and then I let him like go back to all fours and start crawling, and I start scrawling a page for him for his very own book. Like, took first steps. Good work. And I tear a page out and I put it into his notebook. He's already got like 20 things on there.
That's perfect. That's the name. First
What?
steps.
First steps. It's not bad. It's not exactly like, you know, Cloud Runner or Sky Dancer,
Ah,
but first steps is not
remember
bad.
that awful kid Skywalker? Who named that kid?
I don't know, but I mean, Namer named the kid, but I don't know which Namer. I think I read a history about it once, all the Namers and all the people they named. They keep a book,
A book of names?
a book of names.
Yeah. I always thought it was
Here,
all mumbo
you've,
jumbo anyways.
you just learned something new, and I write a page for you and like tear it out. There you go.
Oh man, this is she just shakes her head and just want to tell you too, I love you too.
Do you add it to your book, or do you like discard it, or?
Yeah, I think she takes it and like dumps it in the rubbish bin.
And I like walk up behind you and like put my arms around you, and I'm like, you don't have to. You don't have to add it to your book. It doesn't hurt my feelings, but it is tradition. But I
Right.
get it if you don't want to do that.
I just had the feeling that most of these pages, she looks over at her book and it's like that thick, it's super thick of accomplishments. And she's like, you know, they're meaningless for the most part.
I mean, I guess I don't know. It's the way we do things around here, but I get it. You're not feeling very much Horizon these days.
Yeah, but I'm always happy to come home. I'm in the scene there. Awesome. So reflection, for the hero. I think the hero is kind of feeling like an outcast at this point. Um, because it seems like her ideas, her thoughts on the world aren't really meshing real well with the rest of society. Um, but she's just adapting to the situation. Um, but I think she feels that sweeping changes are going to be needed when pretty soon. Um, some bad some she just has that gut feeling that something bad is probably about to happen. She just doesn't know what. So, all right. So we rotate the characters again. Um, David, you get to play the hero. So at any point, we should start ramping up the consequences and start having them snowball into like bad stuff happening.
Right.
Um,
So was there an opportunity for consequences off of that last scene? Like we're renaming the child or anything like that?
what do you see, Michael?
Um, yeah, I mean, hmm. I mean, we've already kind of taken away some of your status, so I think if our complications are trying to limit your ability to save the society, right? To challenge that.
Yeah, you're challenging it. Um, the hero is always pushing to make society better in some way, but there's always a complication, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse as the game goes on.
I think that when the namer hears that you've given a new name to Omen, that they're going to give you a new name as well.
Interesting. All right, so let's rotate characters. Michael, you'll be the pillar. I'll be the fallen. David, you'll be the hero.
So I choose a tradition to explore.
Yep.
Let's look a little bit more at religion.
Okay. So remember, time is like nothing in the system. So like you don't have to be like super sequential with your scenes. You can jump ahead in time if you want, back in time, however you want to see it.
Okay. And I set the first scene, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I think Sun Seeker, or whatever the namer tries to call her nowadays, um, is at whatever like constitutes our kind of religious holy day, you know, the day that we would go in and reflect on ourselves and all of this to try and better enlighten, empower, and elevate ourselves. And she's got First Step with her, and First Step is old enough to talk now. And the Fallen can be there as well, in the immediate vicinity, admiring himself in his mirror as Sunseeker speaks with her kiddo.
Okay, Michael, you could play first step.
So, um, I don't know what all this is about. I'm being honest. I'm like holding up a little reflective piece to me and then to you. I'm like, First Step, I see the best parts of myself in you. I suppose you can see that in yourself. And I'm not exactly worshiping here, but maybe what we need is to have more people think about what we've done in the past and how we can grow forward in the future. And that's why I called you First Step. And I like touch your nose.
Mom, you know, some of the other kids have been making fun of me for that.
And you know what I think about kids that make fun of you, you can tell them to go try and jump on a cloud.
Yeah, and I think that like when I laugh and you smile, we can kind of see like the same smile in the reflection. That's like one thing we have in common.
And then Stratos shows up, like just appears behind First Step, or he leans down. You could be like your mama was, and just punch him right in the jaw.
Don't go teaching him that now.
Well, why not?
He might do it.
There's nothing wrong with that. Showing drive.
Yeah, but it caused more problems and hurt other people. I think that it would be better if we were to learn from that.
Learn from what? I mean, and I mean, First Step. You know, it's gonna have a career in the military just like the rest of us did. There's nothing wrong with learning a bit of toughness before we
There's
get
nothing,
there.
there's nothing wrong with learning a bit of toughness, but maybe First Step won't be in the military. Maybe First Step will do something else.
Wait, what?
Tell them what you've been thinking, First Step. Tell me what you thought was so much fun earlier.
Um, I well, I've been doing a lot of drawing.
Drawing's cool. Have you ever drawn swords?
Um, More like birds, trees.
Well, that's very nice and all, but drawing only gets you so far. So, like, once you draw something, you should move on to something else.
He was drawing a colony of ants earlier, and it was just fascinating how much he observed for his
Right.
age.
But drawing only gets you so many pages in your book. You got to do different things. Draw for a little bit and then do something else. Stay busy.
He's getting better at drawing, and he's learning new things. Like, look at this, and like I'm starting to almost ignore poor little First Step here, as I'm like grabbing for like his drawings that he's made. Like, look at this. See, he actually managed to find a cross section where he could see what the ants were doing. He could see what they were doing underground. Look at these structures. We've never seen anything like these structures.
Yeah, that's fine and dandy, but the amount of time that he must have spent on that it's wasteful,
How is it wasteful?
because that's time that could be spent doing another thing.
You know, I'm going to raise my son the way that I see fit. And I don't think I need a whole lot of input from you, or really a mirror, or really anyone around here. Come on, sweetie, let's go.
I'm sort of just like, getting dragged along, but I'm like looking at my reflection in my hand and like, who am I? Kind of thing.
So I imagine that scene. The consequence is like Stratos gets to talking with like other folks, and like I think the consequence of that is Sunseeker, your family is like really like being looked down upon. Like people quit talking to you. You've stopped being invited to like birthings, and yeah, it's getting pretty bad. You're pretty much being shut out of the community, and so is Nimbus by, as well. All right. So for the next scene, we're doing religion, right? No, it's what it was, Mike.
Yeah.
Put ourselves through enlightenment, empowerment, elevation. Yeah, let's say Sunseeker, you are at like the first full citywide call to the anchor. It is now complete. It's probably pretty weird for you seeing this as like a lot of it is your design, strong structure, safe, and all that, but a lot of it is the design of Cumulus, a less experienced architect, and you could like, probably to an architect, it's like really jarring the design of this giant stadium meant to hold, 200,000 people, we'll say, that are in the city. Yeah, you are there, and you and Nimbus are there, definitely. And we'll say the third one is your best friend. And the situation is everybody's been called for this grand opening of the anchor. And like, yeah, I think you walk in and the entire ceiling of this dome is like mirrors.
You see, Sunsetter, we're up in the sky.
I don't know where they found all these mirrors.
I hope you don't mind me using your new name while we're out here in public. It's just for the child.
Is it?
It's for our family's sake.
I know we've talked about this, and you think that it's gonna somehow help First Step in the future, but I don't see it that way. I kind of see it as a little bit of betrayal. So maybe you just say you or something if you can't stand my first name.
I just want what's best for our family, for our future. Son, sweetheart, we've just look where we are. This should be a memorial to your accomplishments, but instead it's a mockery.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. Like, I don't even matter. Look, like, everyone is so caught up with doing more and having their accomplishments acknowledged, and no one is looking to the practicalities of the situation. Like, I don't know about the modifications to this building. I saw over the plans, and really, like, Cumulus started to build hollow pillars halfway up, and now he's covered it with a really heavy ceiling. Seems like a bad idea.
I do not understand your technical jargon, but how you speak of my actions as a betrayal. And I'm sort of like in this like hushed whisper with you, right? But maybe you're the one who's betrayed our family. Look where we are now. No one wants to look at us. Everyone
So-
is turned away.
At this point, you hear Sunsetter, Nimbus. It's Sky Song, who's Sunseeker's best friend.
Hey, haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, it's just we're not really supposed to be seen in public with you.
Now you're seen in front of everyone with me, so
Yeah, I figured, what the hey, but I just wanted to come and say goodbye.
goodbye.
Yeah, I can't really talk to you anymore. And, as much as I love, Little First Step, it's not good for my family's reputations and ambitions to, consort with a family with ideas like yours.
That's
I
This is what I'm
understand
talking-
completely.
No, I don't. This is what I'm talking about. If you just did what you wanted to do instead of what everyone told you you were supposed to do for ambition's sake, maybe you'd be happier.
Look,
Um,
look around you. Look around. Look at how you're raising your voice. Look how these people are looking at you. You've lost it.
Look, we're all in trouble here if we keep doing things the way we keep doing them. All right. I mean, do we even realize that we build new buildings and move into them and abandon the old buildings because the old buildings collapse on themselves? No one wants to talk about that. No one wants to talk about how we keep building buildings that can never last.
Who
Buildings that
cares
would
about those
crush
old
us.
buildings? They're old buildings. There'll always be new buildings. Look at this. This is amazing.
This building is so close to falling in on us. It's ridiculous.
That's crazy talk. Nimbus, will you talk some sense into her?
I mean, she does have a point.
You two are insufferable. She walks off.
Maybe we should just go. We don't need to be here for this. No one will mind if we're gone. They might even be glad if we're gone.
But the first step is his friends, his studies.
No, I mean just here tonight. I don't mean like forever. We don't need to be here at the dome, right?
Okay. One night. What could it hurt?
Come on. Let's get out of here.
Is that scene? Trying to think of a consequence of all that.
I mean, what could it hurt? One night. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think the consequence of that is like you've been declared an enemy of the people, and like First Step is no longer allowed to attend school, and Nimbus is no longer allowed to teach general studies.
I have an
You're-
idea on that if you're open to suggestions.
Go ahead.
Like, what if we're considered enemy of the people because part of the dome collapsed and they blame me?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, like part of the dome collapsed and killed a bunch of people. And Cumulus said it was because of the changes you had made originally to the original plans.
And conveniently, neither myself nor Nimbus were there when everyone was supposed to be there.
That's dead on. Nice. Yeah, so like your family's pretty much considered like enemies right now. They're not like coming after you to arrest you and all that, but just think of it. There's just crazy animosity towards Sunseeker, Nimbus, and First Step. Awesome. Do we think we have enough for this next round to be the last round before the collapse?
Sure.
Okay, so Michael, you'll be the hero for this last round. David, you'll be the fallen. So you want to really like press the consequences of the hero's actions. Michael, you really want to push to try to fix the problems in society right now. Because after this round, we're going to describe like how this whole empire comes crashing down. And if like we get to a point like at the end of the scene where it doesn't feel like we have enough, we can do another round. So as I'm the pillar, David, you are the fallen, Michael, you're the hero. Let's do military. Definitely do military. Michael, you get the first scene.
Well, I think that this is the unveiling of the Sky Fortress. I think that um, Cumulus has developed a technique. I'm thinking like there's these like great balloons that are like being filled up with like helium or something, and great fires that are sort of being stoked by like dead bodies and other things. And like weapons platforms and things like that are sort of gleaming and glistening at like different corners. And um, this is like the first step towards total sky domination. But as far as like what we're doing, I think maybe like Cumulus has invited, uh, even though you're an enemy of the state, like, or I'm an enemy of the state, he's invited me to like come and see what he's accomplished, sort of to rub it in my face a little bit. And maybe like Stratos is there too.
All right. Sunsetter. So glad you can make it.
Cumulus.
Stratos comes out and he's like laughing, like he's like, look at this, this is just magnificent. Look at this, Cumulus. Oh, Sunsetter, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you for quite some time. Stratos is so proud that you have done this for us, Cumulus. Now we have a purpose for the bodies of our enemies, to keep the great structures filled and taut so it can drive us into the air.
I think this is truly a first step for our people.
The first of the last, I believe.
Sunsetter, why you gotta be so dour? Look at this marvelous, marvelous thing that I would say I have built, but I couldn't have done it without the things you taught me before. But now look at this. This trumps anything that's ever been built before.
This is an engine of death. It's fueled by blood. This is not the glorious cities of the clouds that I dreamed of in my youth. This is a nightmare.
But it's
No.
the blood of our enemies.
It's the dream. Come on. This is what we've wanted. And look, can't you even be civil to Cumulus? He just acknowledged your part in all of this. Looking back at the past, I mean, what a consolation. His humility is truly extraordinary, driving him to the forefront of all manner of the most humble. Look, can't you even acknowledge this?
Do you know what I see reflected in these gleaming steel pillars? I see the face of Cirrus and our other friends who died fighting for what? And what will we do when we've drained all of our enemies of blood? We'll have none to turn on except for ourselves.
I just... You know, Sunsetter, if you were just a little less quirky, you might be invited for the first flight of this. And then when we make our home in the clouds, and we reach those structures the ancestors left for us, if you're still acting like this, they're going to leave you and First Step on the ground.
For the first time in my life, I'm looking forward to it.
Seems like a scene.
Yeah. Is there any action that the hero takes to change?
Yeah, well, I need to. That's my job as the hero. know. It's tricky trying to think of something to change without like averting disaster.
Well, that's the
this
saying,
point.
but see, that's the reason that the fallen is there for a consequence.
Don't
So you
worry.
can change. You can,
Don't worry. I'll find a way.
yeah. So if you want to destroy that airship, you could destroy that airship. That's the power of being the hero.
I was gonna say I might be able to sabotage this thing in some ways. I probably know the weak points with my knowledge of engineering and structural integrity, especially since Cumulus has been so reckless in the construction of this thing. So yeah, I'll probably do some covert sabotage, make sure this thing doesn't get off the ground.
So you aim to just keep it from flying?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the consequence of this is that it has the great big, hot air balloon kind of structures or whatever, and those come like floating down because they don't have enough propulsion, and they kind of cover the structure and the surrounding area, and the unbreathable air of that space like poisons just tons and tons of people. And there's no one else for them to blame besides like the obvious enemies, but they don't think the obvious enemies would be smart enough to do something like this. So there's only that witch, Sunsetter, to blame.
Awesome. Colin, you get this frame the next scene.
There is a military contingency that wants to try and arrest Sunsetter and Nimbus, because they suspect what has actually happened, that it was their fortress was sabotaged, and they want to bring him to martial justice.
Okay. So who's there? Just Stratus and Nimbus, or Nimbus and Sunseeker.
Nimbus, Sunseeker, and then this military guy leading a bunch of troops. I'm trying to think of a name.
I only know like 3 clouds. So.
Maybe it's like Sky General. Like maybe like he was given the name Sky General because he was supposed to like command the ship.
Oh yeah, it was whoever was supposed to be in charge of that.
Skylord.
Skylord. Yeah, he was going to be the Skylord.
Never heard he is. Come on, I'm Skylord.
Yeah, it's Verga who was to be Skylord, but yeah, Verga is here.
Okay. So like, are we at home?
She's leading people. Yeah, you're at home, which might be like on the edge of the city or something now. Tell me about the home.
Yeah, do we see that? I think our home's like really nice because we were both very successful people. So like our home has like a nice veranda and we have like this huge backyard and a lot of trees and like a great view. Yeah, I think, perhaps we noticed the military moving in. Sunseeker. They're coming for us. What do we do? Did you do that? Did you do it?
There's no way that they could prove it if I did.
But could you tell me as your husband the truth?
And I think like I'm sort of like looking at you like long hesitation when like that's probably when the military shows up, right?
Yeah, Verga kicks in the door and like comes marching out to your veranda or whatever. You can see out and see the great big blob that's covering everything. And it took like several days for it to all happen. It's been like probably a week or two, and people are like still trying to escape from it, and it's still like having this fallout. Um, and she's like, Sunsetter, Nimbus, gives me no great pleasure to come here and demand that you accompany me to a tribunal.
Let me guess. Cumulus or Cirrus Cumulus has blamed his failures on me yet again. Is that right?
Cumulus is dead. Cumulus is suffocated inside of his own devices and has been sent to the sky ahead of us. But he did so in his best efforts to try and fix what he did say you brought upon us.
And what proof of there is this?
I don't need proof at this point. I'm just here arresting.
Well, I mean, there is law.
Yes. Somebody else is in charge of all that. I'm just here to arrest you. You can make this easy, you can make this hard.
Where will they take us?
We'll take you to the Namer.
The
Namer seems to know more about what's going on than any of us. And then I think like Virga sees First Step, Omen, as originally named, and she like draws out like a short sword and like grabs him and is like, for instance, this one was named Omen.
Please, put your sword away. He doesn't have to be harmed.
No, he doesn't. And then Virga like draws him like closer and like puts the blade closer and is like, but you're the one demanding proof, so maybe
Sunseeker, it's okay. It's okay. Let's do what they say.
Well, you're the one seeking proof, so Nimbus, what do you think?
That's what I'm saying.
Did Sunsetter do it?
No. My wife would never harm anybody.
Sunsetter, anything you want to say for yourself?
Anything that has happened in this time has been the fault of Cumulus's ambitions and his alone.
That's what we live for. Oh.
And sometimes it blows up in your face. Why should the one person who tried to warn you against this course of action be held responsible?
More than warn about it, you actively proposed that it was a bad thing that we destroy our enemies. Clearly you are in league with them.
Well, look what happened to us.
Mm-hmm. Look indeed.
You should consider me your savior.
Nimbus, I'm giving you one last chance. Confess on behalf of this mad woman and join the right of us all. Seek your place in the clouds, not here on the ground.
He looks down at First Step. He looks back at Sunseeker.
Nimbus.
Honey, I can't.
Who do you want to be responsible for guiding the future of our child? Me or these people? Their ways? Who do you think is right here?
Their ways have always been the right ways. It shouldn't be their ways. It should be our ways, too.
Well, there you have it. my innocence is proven.
We'll see. And I think they'll try and cart you all off to the namer unless you do something about it.
No,
But
just
otherwise that's seen. So
lots of holding hands on the way out.
So what action is the hero taking here?
I think she's trying to pin this accident or what have you on the fault of the society.
Okay. So yeah, as the hero, you do that. You manage to convince the namer, I assume, um, that this is because of Cumulus's ambition, and he was led astray by society. David, if you want to come up with a consequence of that.
yeah. The consequence is they want to try and erase what Cumulus did from memory and from existence. And they tried to do this by burning what was left of it, but there's still enough like combustible gases as a part of that structure that like it explodes and like creates just a big gap in like the city's defenses, and like has destroyed like lots and lots of valuable resources because there's tons of stuff that could have been salvaged. And like I think the society is truly in danger of like succumbing to the enemy, because they've wounded themselves so severely in an attempt to erase all of Cumulus's works, including like tearing down buildings that he built.
I love it. Yeah, I think that gives us enough to go into the collapse phase. Since we have a catastrophe on our hands for the most part. So the way the collapse phase works is pretty simple. We will go around and everyone will narrate a short vignette of the collapse of our haven. Let's go in reverse order from the last person that played the hero. So Michael, you'll go first, then David, then me. Yeah, so just a short vignette of from the hero's perspective of the collapse of our society.
Yeah, I think it's like we're sort of in this grand Namer's Dome, right? And I'm giving this impassioned speech, and we see the Namers sort of like tilting their head and like starting to nod and maybe see the error of their ways when all of a sudden like the doors fling open and like a messenger runs in like nearly out of breath. Enemy at the gates, enemy at the gates, to arms, and everyone is sort of like, leaping out of their seats, and the guard is like running out the door. And I think we just see like Nimbus and Sunseeker like standing there with first steps, like shocked.
David?
As the city is overrun with technologically inferior enemies, Nimbus, Sunseeker are running away from the city. They're trying to flee the city. And there's still random explosions from the fires that were set on the remnants of the the Sky Fortress, and one of these explosions happens just as Sunseeker gets past, and Nimbus is trying to climb over an object, and Nimbus is carrying First Step, and Nimbus collapses to the ground, seemingly unconscious or wounded mortally, and little First Step comes running to Sunseeker.
Yeah, I think like for the final parting shot of this, um, Sunseeker and First Step are like on a bluff, like kind of overlooking the central city of the Empire, as it's just being devastated by the armies of the enemy. And you can see people fleeing the city and like just running in all directions. It's just chaos, as people are just running everywhere, and just, some of them are being killed by the enemy. Some of them are fighting them, but the city is in flames, totally engulfed. She looks, you could see like all the people, like I imagine like all the people running around, and then you look down, and at her feet is a pile of ants, and you can see all the ants like running around almost in the same pattern. Now I think that's the end of the movie. Awesome. Thank you all. That was Downfall. It's it's a game that always ends on a dour note. It never fails. I mean, it's in the title, Downfall. You're gonna play the downfall of a civilization. Yeah. So real quick, let's just go around. David, do you have any thoughts on the system as a story game in itself?
I mean, it's a fun game. It's always interesting to play games where you start with the end in mind, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy the rotating cast of characters. I wonder what else can be accomplished with this style of play, because I haven't done something quite like this. I wonder if Sunseeker or the hero character is required in every scene, or if you can have scenes between other characters entirely.
Well,
I don't know if it changes
the hero is required in every scene.
Okay.
Because they're the protagonists of the story, so they that's the only requirement, is they're in every scene.
Right. Yeah, I wonder like if that's like a valuable limitation or not.
Right. I think the reason that it was put in there is because you really want the hero to take action to fix everything, because that interaction between the hero and the fallen character, where the hero always takes action and the fallen always gets a consequence, you want that in every scene.
Right. But yeah, I just wonder like if you could have a scene where like the fallen was talking to the namer or in our story, and then based on whatever they came up with, like the hero could take an action and that would drive for a consequence or something like that. Like I envisioned like some scenes in my mind that like could have happened like that, and I just don't know if like, I think you definitely want the hero in most, if not all scenes, but I just wonder if it's like as valuable as
I think that could be like a something you could bolt onto this game, like instead of having it like part of the main rotation scenes, have for like a vignette scene that doesn't include the hero. Maybe just have like a short vignette if you want to like role play out, another character doing something with another character.
I think you have a good point, David, because like I think the strength of having the hero character always like trying to fix things is that it really like reinforces the tragedy at the end, like they tried so hard, got so far, but in the end it doesn't even matter. But like yeah, like I would have loved some scenes with like Stratos just like going off with the namer, because I think it would add like a tension to the game, like I think the tragedy is cool, but I think some tension kind of also elevates that downfall at the end. Uh, you've played this before, Pat. Does
Mhm.
the hero always like foist themselves on their own petard, or was that just how it went today?
I don't know. The hero always, because of the way the game is designed, it always just seems like it doesn't seem like the hero is very heroic sometimes. Like they try, they have the right ideals, and they do things that are probably considered heroic, in our scope. But like because there's always a consequence, it's like almost like it feels like they're bumbling a lot.
Which is relatable. I liked this game a lot. I really enjoyed our session
Hmm.
too. It had a very like theatrical kind of sense and scale to it. Like it felt like a Aesop fable in a way or something, like it felt classical in some
Hmm.
ways, almost like we were playing like I could see this play like being like examined like by people, it's like, oh, this is how this reflects the hero's journey or some sort of
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
structure like that.
Um,
Um, yeah.
yeah, I was thinking like, see, like I mentioned it before we started playing, that like the city creation, the society creation is like my favorite part. Um, because I love how everybody has their input. You have three random elements that everybody chose, and that like bases your setting. And the set, like the two times I've played it, the setting has been like kind of whimsical in a way.
Hmm.
Like it's not necessarily like I haven't done this. I'm sure you could do this like in a modern, more realistic type of setting, but it's always felt
Like a
kind
coffee
of,
shop or something.
yeah, it's always kind of felt like, I don't know, like the kind of feeling you get like when you see like a steampunk game or like a diesel punk game, like that's kind of real, but yet kind of not. It's kind of like in that uncanny zone.
Sure.
Um, I do like that about the settings, but you're right about the scenes. I think it can fill out some scenes by having scenes between other characters. Um, but I think what the game does, it does well. You know, by no matter what, you're going to push towards a downfall. So you could play this game in longer sessions. Like this game was a lot slower creep than the first game I played. Like the first game I played, by the time we had got done with the second person being the hero, like the shit had already hit the fan. Um, in the society. Um, but that was like that game was more like steampunkish, and the government was eating people, or basically feeding people soy and green.
Oh my.
Um, yeah, that's what that one was kind of based on. I can't remember what the flaw in that one was, but I think it was.
Lots
I,
of cannibalism going on though. That's the through line here.
yeah, I think that one was pride. I think that was their flaw in that one, and it's interesting that it got turned to cannibalism. But that's just the way it worked out. Um, but yeah, I really like this as a one shot story game. It gives you the structure there to tell a cohesive story. Um, I played a story game one time that just didn't feel cohesive.
Ooh.
I can't remember what game it was. I think David, you were in that game. It was a game we had played with Dan at some point last year. Had to do with like traveling to like on a boat somewhere. Do you remember that game?
Traveling on a boat somewhere.
Yeah, and like you chose whether you wanted to represent the sea or something like that. And
Oh, yeah. I don't remember what that was called, but yeah, yeah. It was a little weird.
yeah, it was like a story game that gave you like it tried to give you a structure for setting up the game, but didn't actually give you a structure for playing the game. So
Mm.
you had this like real cool setting, but it was kind of hard to tell a story in it.
Yeah, that was a tricky game.
Yeah, I mean this game's cool. It does a lot with very little, I think, like it gives you the structure and it gives you some like thematic ideas and you kind of just go with it.
Hmm.
And I think it's cool to me when you see something with like a limited set of procedures still manage to produce like consistent outcomes. I think
Yeah.
that's pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean the book itself is that big. It's not very big at all.
Well,
I was gonna
except
ask,
for like that does look really big for like everything that we just did. Like how many
yeah.
pages?
It is 50. It's like 50 something. The last pages aren't numbered. It's 63 plus 3 character sheets in the back and a quick reference.
Okay.
But I think like
Because this could be like a one-page RPG in some
mhm.
ways.
Yeah, it could.
I'm
There's
curious like what it has in there to support it.
there's 3 pages of play advice, and there's about 11 pages, 12 pages of like settings that you can use.
Oh, okay.
Are not really settings, but they're kind of like adventure. If you want to play an adventure game, a game in the city, a game about creation, a cyber type game, dystopian game, Fable, Interstellar, a game about society, game about superhumans. A
Which
game's
one did we use today?
we didn't. We just freelanced it on our own.
So what looks different with like a predefined setting?
So the predefined setting. So for example, let's say superhuman. This one says there are 2 kinds of humans: those with power and those without. In a city plagued by crime, we coexist. At least we try to. So they give you 3 flaws to pick from: nationalism, pride, or wrath. And then the elements. There's a smaller list of elements: beacon, crowds, crystal, downpour, needle, night, shadows, sludge, steam, tower, tunnel, wind. And then the starting traditions are superhumans can be identified by blank. Lawbreakers are punished by blank. So like gives you prompts for setting up the setting. It also gives you a list of names and what tradition categories. So
Oh, okay.
it's kind of like a quick start thing, so that we don't have to go through, coming up with the elements and the flaw and traditions on your own. But yeah, the first 30 pages are like how to play the game. But like not even like all the pages are filled all the way up. See, like these kind of stop like halfway down, so that adds a bit to the page bloat.
Well, I mean, I didn't mean that as a criticism. I was just curious. I think that like this is a cool story game, but I also think even if you just did like the first half, it'd be a fun like collaborative world building. I like playing with theme and with symbols. So like if we're like, okay, we need to come up with like a kingdom for our fantasy game or whatever. Okay, here's 3 traditions and let's like figure that out.
Oh yeah, that is a great idea. Even if you're playing like a fantasy game, you can be like, all right, so we'll use that elements list and then throw those elements down and be like, all right, we're gonna make our setting from this. That'd be pretty cool.
I could see those like extra like pre-generated hooks to be helpful for that too, for whatever setting you're doing.
Yeah, and like in a world building sense, coming up with traditions, even if you're just a GM and you're creating a setting, those traditions are great little prompts. What's your society like? What drives it? What's
our
its flaw?
society was super cool.
Yeah, I thought our society was actually pretty cool. They were all chill and they were like, "Yeah, it's all good, man. Just keep going forward."
While like throwing their grandpa like into like a fire.
Yeah, it was all our society was very hippy dippy and all love and everything until somebody decided they wanted to speak out.
Yeah.
And then that's when the hate started showing up. But yeah, so sweet. I'll go ahead and end the stream. Before we go, I'll let you say your goodbyes and if you want to give a shout out to anything. So David.
Yeah, thanks for watching. If you're out there watching this, hope you enjoyed our story that we created with this fun small story game. If you like story games like this, check out the Gauntlets Codex. You can find it on Drive Thru RPG. And if you want advanced issues, you can join us on patreon.com/gauntlet to get those as soon as they come hot off the presses. I'm an editor for it. I love it. I love seeing all of the new small story games that we are getting to publish through it. It's fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you. Michael.
Yeah, I had a great time. I feel fine. I'm totally fine. Don't worry. I'm fine. Uh, thanks again, Patrick, for facilitating and teaching this game to me. I love learning new games. There's so many out there, and I don't know if I'll ever climb myself to the top of the pile. But much like the Horizon Empire, I want to play a little bit of every game. I'm trying to fill up my scrapbook here. So thanks again for letting me do so. I'll write a
Yes,
page.
it definitely feels like we created a new thing. Now we need to have a book of RPG accomplishments to carry around with you, so you can show everybody.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
playing D&D 500 times will only get you a single page.
Yeah.
You have to play all of the story games once each time.
Yep, you got to play. You got to
Gotta
play one
play.
every story game, even the one-page RPGs. Awesome. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm Patrick. Check out my channel, Fictive Fun, here on Twitch. We do streams on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Check out old streams on the YouTube channel. Check out thegauntletrpg.com. Their Patreon. It is well worth it. I mean, if you think that paying, a few dollars a month isn't worth the value you get out of the Gauntlet, you are wrong. The Gauntlet is immense value for the price you pay. Very, very immense with the great players, the great GMs, the games you could get in. I can't think of a better value in RPGs right now than the Gauntlet. So, yeah. Well, that said, thank you everybody. Catch me up on Twitter if you want to ask me a question about anything. See y'all later.